see.
It really is wonderful. It gets everybody in that space.
It does. It's like the class is ready.
The class is ready.
Yeah.
And so it is. How are you, Kellee?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm enjoying fall. We finally have fall here on the farm.
And are the leaves change colors?
Yes, they are. And some of the colors, my favorite colors are your shirt, that kind of mustardy color.
You mean like the kind of you're wearing too?
Yeah, the kind that I'm wearing too. Exactly. We always tend to do this. Yes.
We always tend to, we never check with each other before.
Ever.
And we just, I look and I just go, okay, that color. Oh, you go, that color.
And it's always about the same time. It's the wildest thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, dealing with this crazy energy that we're all going through right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were just talking earlier before we got on here, how the energy is so different. And you had the insight and said, oh, yeah, we're grieving the old energy.
Yeah. We are. Especially many of us are grieving the old energy.
Millennials are like, wow, knocked left and right. So
right.
Everything. I mean, even down to, wow. I mean, driving, doctor's appointments or going to the store, cashiers, using ATM machines, using credit cards. It's all different. I mean,
it's everything you just said.
It's like,
even down to the credit cards. Tap it, slide it, do this. What's your number?
In a row, I was like, okay, and can you please do it? Because every machine is different. Like, there you go. It's like, wow. So this earth is our great soul school, right? Yeah. So, and we come back here to learn many, many, many soul lessons. And tonight we'll discuss grief and the spiritual lessons of grief. But it's interesting because in this world, things are going so fast and so quick, and they change like that. I think when you first come into this world, you got to learn a lesson in patience in this new energy, right? It's like, right? We're always learning something. So maybe it's about patience.
Well, it's funny you would say that, because this energy, maybe that is one of the lessons we're supposed to learn from this energy.
That's what I was thinking. That. Maybe this is one of the lessons of many that we're learning here. And I think it's also awareness. I think, you know, people are there, like, I just feel like the energy is moving so quickly and people don't know what to do. And, you know, one of the best things, of course, we talk about is grounding oneself, is like you talked about last week too, much more important this time than ever before. Yeah. With this energy.
And trying to stay as conscious as you can during
this
energy.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I was backing up today I went to the gym, and I was backing up, and I looked out the windows and see when that man just walks right by my car, the back of my car. And he goes, huh? I'm like, huh? Oh. So I'm very careful. And it's like, no, you're walking behind a moving car.
Right. Unconscious.
Yeah. A lot of, it's funny. I know I wrote about that in my newsletter recently about being unconscious and waking people up, being conscious. And it's just so very important, because most people are sleepwalkers.
Yeah. Yes. And especially nowadays. Yeah. It seems like people don't know how to respond to this kind of energy. I think
it's hard for us, and we've been into this for a long time.
It is. I mean, we are constantly coming up with ideas to make sure that we're grounded and that we are conscious of what we're thinking, what we're doing, what we're acting. I went to a doctor today, and I was trying to get another appointment. And the doctor said to me, oh yeah, it was hilarious. The doctor said to me, well, tomorrow's my last day. And I'm like, oh, that tracks. Tomorrow's your last day. And he said, but you'll see somebody in 3 months. I said, oh, okay, great. So I went to the front desk to make my appointment. And she said, who said 3 months? It's not 3 months. She said it's 1.5 years from now.
Oh.
Yeah. Small towns. Not easy.
Oh, small town.
Small towns. And I said, whoa, I am going to. Yeah. But it was just a wild thing, because it was like no communication.
No, but they even in San Diego, same thing. I mean, same thing. I literally go to a doctor of mine. It's very interesting. I go to this doctor, and you can go through the online and go through the portal and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
No, I go in person. I'll just drive by, stop, and talk to the girl at the front desk who's sitting at the computer, not looking up at all, very unconscious. And of course, I can go, hello, how are we all doing today? And they're like,
you probably shook them up.
I live off that. I eat that right up, because, like, you know, we're in a health environment. You got to be connected when someone walks into your space. Anyway, so I just stop in person, because it's much easier than trying to get on that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
And as we move on, these companies, I understand the corporations trying to make things easier and easier. So they'll always use AI. Every day, all of us are dealing with these robots on the phones.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just going to be part of the world that we're living in. I thought about that this morning. But is it every company that has automatic answering and answering? And wow. Yeah.
Well, and I think that we are grieving this energy now. I do. I think we are grieving it.
Missing the old, and grief is that emotional connection and really going through that emotional. Would you call it a trauma, Kellee? Grief?
Absolutely. It's
different types of grief, which you're going to mention, which there are. I read a book about it, Healing Grief, but you're going to talk about different types of.
Well, there's different types of grief,
and would you say there's more than one type of trauma for one type, more than the other types, or is it equal? Or
I think grief is grief.
Yeah.
But some grief is complicated grief for sure. Depending on what has happened to what the situation is. But grief, just so everybody understands what grief is, it's an emotional response to loss. So it's a natural response to an event that disrupts our sense of normalcy. So it doesn't have to be just death, James. It could be any situation. Like right now, this is not normal. This world that we're living in is not normal. It is just not normal. So this is kind of a natural response to that. And it's a process of coping, learning how to cope, and adapting to a new reality, which is really what we're doing right now. We're adapting to a new reality.
Change is power, right? Remember from last week, change is power.
Change is power, absolutely.
We're stepping into change with each step we take.
Absolutely. But it's a new reality after a significant loss, and that can be in a relationship. It can be in health. It could be the environment. It could be a job. It could be anything.
A divorce. It could be end of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. It could be any of that. And certainly it can be a loss. And so, James, tell me, why does a soul, when they come to Earth, tell me why is grief one of the classes that people take?
It's a major class, and it's one of the most common class. And like I asked you about the different levels of trauma for different types of situations of grief, and it's very interesting because if you have a parent that's lost two children, I've known two children, and in traumatic, strange ways, or another one that loses a loved one or friends something explodes, or however, if it's suddenness. What a good thing. It's a hard one. That's traumatic.
That's traumatic.
We're souls having a human experience. And part of that human experience is that spectrum of experiences, all different types of experiences. Each one is, and no matter what it is, every single lesson we go through on the Earth School is for growth and expansion. And whether that's going through that separation of a loved one or changing things over something new, it's a matter of having an expansion of, if you will, growth, evolution, and a sense of compassion, and and a better understanding of things too. Grieving a partner is a little different than grieving a job. Or loss of a child, but it's all losses. It's all the change. It's like you say, changes in life. And I think that, as we've talked about before, we're always changing. Things are always moving, and that's what life is about: movement. And a soul will choose. And it's very interesting because you'll have some souls that come back and they go through grief, but again, like there are different levels of grief. So it could be several children, could be several different family members, could be, like I said, explosions, all different types of ways of leaving or changing. And it's up to really us to go within ourselves, our own soul discovery, and from how we adapt, how we deal with that change. Will it help us to know ourselves better, go deeper dive into our own spirituality? Does it teach about separation of a loved one, their value and worth in our lives and our relationship with them? And then does that teach us, well, maybe I should have been more loving and compassionate or understanding with that person. So now I may have another chance to do it with someone else in my physical life right now. So maybe that's it. And also, can be a karmic obligation between souls too. I've learned in my work that in past lives, if you will, someone died. Let's say, I don't know. This is a really weird example. Let's say they're in a relationship and someone kills them, right? A husband kills his wife, and in this lifetime, the wife kills the husband. Or it is to learn the both sides of the coin. So it's a bad example, but you know what I mean.
Well, we get it, yeah.
Both to learn the fullness and the wholeness of that. And I just think that the hard lessons in life, again, whether it's grief, and to me, one of the hardest lessons in this world is losing a child. I've never done it, but you and I have counseled thousands of people.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hard lesson because the parent immediately and naturally thinks, this is not normal, because my child's supposed to live to like outlive me, and I'm 80, 90 years old or 70 years old, whatever it might be.
They come in with a plan. The plan is going to be that the child will outlive me.
And that's the natural.
That's a natural state. Yeah.
So when that happens, it freaks out because this is not supposed to be. I don't believe that. I don't believe there's any one way it's supposed to be. Remember, we're souls having a human experience. Each soul is a different experience. And before we come back to the incarnation, we sit with other soul group members, our guides and teachers, and we'll go through those various lessons we have to learn in this lifetime. One of the biggest ones, of course, is losing that sense of love and separation and grief. But you never lose someone. They're always with you. So maybe it's also a lesson in learning to love them, and appreciate them, but also loving yourself more. Maybe they taught you something in life. Maybe they taught you about loving self. So I think it all goes involved in that, Kel. And I think it's remembering separation, rediscovering who you are, rediscovering relationships, or what things mean. It goes back to self, if you will.
It does. I mean, and it also gives you, when you've had grief, it also connects you to humanity. But it connects you to humanity. That whole idea of connecting a shared experience with others.
Yeah, and also how you can do better. How can you do better this next situation that comes into your world, because it'll come back. It always comes back. You have to learn the lesson in some way.
And a couple of those lessons that are really important are empathy and compassion. And there's a difference, James, between empathy and compassion, because empathy is you can feel someone and you understand they're going through a really difficult time. Compassion is actually taking an action for somebody who's in grief, which that action could be active listening. It could be taking somebody some food. It's more of a compassion for it. It's different.
Yeah, it's almost like you're helping to serve others. And I also think, and I've seen this, you've seen this, that when souls go through grief, again, depending on the level of grief, the depth of that grief, it forces them to become more aware, to become more spiritually minded, become more wise, if you will. I know that pain transfers, it transforms into wisdom if you're ready. I know that one of the greatest lessons when a child is lost is that many times will force the parent to go into their own spirituality. And I've seen more and more folks, parents, I work with Helping Parents Heal, that organization, and many other compassionate friends. And in many ways, if they'll allow it, it'll force them to question their own spirituality, their own journey, what life means to them. And I've seen so many parents write books, start organizations, start groups, and it really got them into their spirituality. Was one lady in New York many years ago now, 35 years ago probably, Marie Levine, lovely lady in New York. I think you might have met her.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
And she's great, triple Scorpio, just saying. I think she was a quadruple Scorpio.
Oh, golly.
And her son died from, he's driving home from college and died in a car accident. And she literally sat across from me on the couch and she said, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. My life is gone. I said, no, your son is saying he's going to help you. This is your agreement that you have to go through, is to understand about grief, to help other people, to serve others. And I said, and you'll do that. And he was showing me this whole timeline of things. She wasn't accepting it. And, she had to sit with it. I think we have to remember there's also a natural progression of going through grief.
Yes.
And everybody grieves differently, and everybody grieves at a different time, right? Different sense, different time. So I can tell you, for years from that grieving, she sat there. She's been the chapter head of Compassionate Friends. She's written 3 books. She's helped so many people go through loss of children. And she's one of the top there that have done that. And I think it really forces us to start questioning things ourselves and each other. And like you said, compassion and again, pain can transform into wisdom if one is willing.
Well, it's interesting. Somebody in my family has Parkinson's. And so he's at a state right now in that he's aware of his grief. And his grief is the following. He'll never be able to travel again. He'll never be able to drive again. He'll never be able to, get up and go. And he had all these plans for himself. And so that's another side of grief, James, where you have to let go of what in your mind, what was planned. And then in order to go further with wisdom and patience.
Yeah. Aging is a big one.
Right.
Big one for a lot of people. I was just a weekend away. I'm not going to say where, but I was with a lot of older people and my age older. And I was like, I said, what? People are unhappy and kind of bitter. And then it dawned on me as I was driving back home, they're old. They don't like aging. They don't like aging. And they thought they'd be happy in a certain place or location or having a big house or whatever it might be. And they're not happy. They're bitter because they're getting older because there's no sense of inside themselves.
Exactly.
You know, you and I, we're kids, and we have enjoyment, we have love, we have fun, we have amusement, which I think you always have to have, that a sense of joy and amusement and self-discovery, and realize, everybody, this might help stepping out of it, and that, you know, this stuff isn't real. It's just a class we're going through for sure. It's a tough one, but it's how we deal with it. And it'll help us expand our consciousness if we allow that to happen. And I really do like to talk about also how it transforms people into their spiritual selves, because they have a new awareness spiritually. And many times when we go through these things, it happens because at a later date, we're going to help someone else going through the exact same thing. Yeah. So it does serve that purpose to help others serve.
Absolutely. I mean, grief can connect you with spirit. It can connect you with your intuition, your spirit guides, the spiritual realm. Wisdom, as you were saying, it strengthens your faith too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gives you a sense of, I don't know, in some ways, purpose. So like you said before, empathy with others and compassion.
Empathy and compassion. And, you know, life is all about, souls come for transformation. They come to learn, really to be able to transform themselves. And this is such an extraordinary time on earth to be able to have that transformation. And when there is this great loss, there can be extraordinary transformation, because it brings resilience and it could bring strength, you know, a deeper understanding, a deeper side of yourself.
Yeah.
It's that self-discovery.
It's that, I talk about every day, it's the art of self-discovery.
Yep.
It's like being excited about every day, like, wow, what am I going to discover? I talked about this last week, same thing.
Right.
You know, what the moment, this moment, oh, this person, I've learned from them. What can I help them with? You know, I love that. And we never should lose that sense of curiosity. And, you know, grieving is, you know, you don't have to let it hold you back. One thing that Kellee and I talk about, and Kellee, you use it a lot, with Eckhart Tolle's The Pain Body.
Oh, I use it, since you and I started talking about it, I use it all the time now, because people that are in grief, sometimes, not always, because grief is a process. Grief it can take its time, whatever, it can come up at any time. It's a work in progress with grief. But there are some people that stay in that body, that pain body of grief.
I call them professional grievers.
Let's talk about professional grievers. Yeah.
Well, they get stuck, and like in many things in life, in many situations in life, some people, we get stuck in certain ways of thinking, certain ways of being. People get. I'm dealing with some people right now in a cult, so you know that's a way of thinking. It's mind control, and it's so interesting because, wow, I was talking to my trainer today. He's a young kid, and they said, you know, what other people think of you, because he kept on looking as others, and then in the mirror. And I said, are you unsure of yourself? He goes, I'd like to check. I said, what other people think of you is none of your business. He goes, oh, I like that. I said, yeah, and it's very true, because you can't get stuck in what other people think. You can't get stuck in like, oh, I got to do better than my next door neighbor, or this job will make me this, or acting. You know, we deal with a lot of actors.
Yeah.
You know, I'm better than anybody else. They look at themselves in a whole different, some of them. It's a very, you know, it's really interesting, because things will hold you back if you're not willing to step back and say, oh, my favorite one is, how interesting. So before I jump into like, I'm freaking out right now, like, which I've done. I do that too, which is fine. It's part of the experience for me. And I'm just like, okay, what am I learning from this? Well, and I often will say that, you know, remember Laughing in the 60s, the end of the 60s?
Yeah, it's a great show.
Now, remember there was a German soldier, and it'd be behind Artie Johnson. How very interesting. And I like that about life. I like that about situations. How very interesting, because that way it also teaches us, or makes us aware of someone else's perspective. Where are they coming from? And you taught me that, Kellee, when you said, you know, meet people where they're at.
Oh, absolutely. And in grief, as a therapist, that's what I do when I work, because I do a lot of grief counseling. And you meet them where they are, because their grief has many different stages. You can be in different stages. I mean, there are actually 6 stages of grief. And the original proposal of this was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And she wrote a great book it's called On Death and Dying. And she had 5 stages of grief. And when I'm working with somebody, and these stages can happen at any time, I'm just going to tell you the order, but it doesn't mean that that's the order that you would feel grief in. So it could be in any order, but there's denial. So like, did this really happen? So James, when you asked about a trauma or a traumatic grief, literally that you would be in shock and disbelief, right? I mean, a bomb has
And
gone
that's all
off.
different types of situations, whether it's you get a diagnosis of something, or you lost a job,
Right. Well, let's
relationship.
talk about that. That's very true. It could be a bad diagnosis. In fact, my
I've
cousin
dealt with
was
clients like that.
misdiagnosed with cancer. Misdiagnosed. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big thing. So there's denial, state of shock and disbelief over something. You may be in anger. Anger is another stage of grief. And James, after my mom died, I was angry for 6 months, maybe
Yeah,
a year.
I
You remember? I
know.
was
I
so
went through it.
angry. And it was the weirdest thing. I never expected that one to pop up. So you don't know what's going to pop up when you
And
have
you're right,
grief.
Kelly, is you don't know when.
You
It'll
don't know when.
have no
You
clue.
could be listening to somebody talk, and all of a sudden you get so pissed off, and then that's it. You know, I mean, it's like because your tolerance level is shrunk. There's no tolerance level when you're in grief for anything.
I remember when my mom passed, and this also happened after I lost a job, by the way. They fired me.
Complicated grief. Okay.
And they pulled me out of this office, and like they said, you I don't know, they used a term about like going or tooling to someone's desk. What are they, like going to someone's desk and stealing things? I'm like, huh?
Did you borrow a pen?
I didn't do anything. They said, you came on the weekend. I said, no, I didn't. And I think it was a budget cut, and they couldn't come and say they couldn't say we have to get rid of some people because I was a temporary worker. But it was like, and I was like charged with that, and I was like, I was there to get security to walk me out. I mean, come on. I'm like,
That's traumatic.
That's what I write about in the book. And that was traumatic. And that hit me probably for a year because it goes to self-worth.
Everything.
Who are you, James? If you don't, know who you are, why does some people understand who you are, that he would never do so? And you start beating yourself up. How could this have happened to me? We all do the me. This could happen to me. And we just got to realize it is a temporary situation. What's the good things that you can get out of it? What is the best part of this lesson I have to go through? What am I going to learn to make me a better person?
Well, did this happen right when your mom died too?
No, this happened right a year before that. A year
Interesting.
before that happened. I ended up working another chapter of that company.
Oh, wow.
And now when my mother passed away, which was 85, I was working for Norman Lear, and I was working for and I was doing a work for People for the American Way. It was a political organization which saw the future in that. It all came to pass, and we're fighting the religious right, and with Jerry Falwell, my good friend. Sure. And when my mom passed away, I was in shock. I was such in shock with that grief, and I didn't know in those days anything about grief. And I remember had to go back to New York, and I didn't know how. I don't know how I did it because that day is a total blank. I went and filled my car up. I think I went to Macy's and got a jacket, which I couldn't afford, and I got an airplane ticket. I went the next day after I got my jacket, and I went home to New York. Got back. When I came back to Los Angeles, I must have been 24, and I didn't remember that I went to work, that I had the car, that how to get to work. And then I realized, the jacket, I have to return it. I can't afford this jacket. It was a sports jacket. So I had to return it to Macy's after I used it at the funeral. But I was in such shock that it's also, Kelly, I guess we could talk about, it's a new experience that you've never been through.
Yeah. But every time you haven't been through it, or every time it happens, it feels like the only time to me when I've had grief.
That's right. And many people feel like I'm going by myself and nobody understands me. And to a point, yes, but everybody goes through a certain amount of grief. And I think it's a good thing to talk to people when you're going through grief.
Absolutely.
I think a therapist, I tell friends of mine at the dog park, I've actually paid for several people to go to a therapist because I know that would really help me when I was going through bad relationships or whatever, to have somebody else to talk to and to get it out.
Well, again, so for somebody who's actively listening to you, who's really right there with you. And again, so if we talk about with the stages of grief, there's still bargaining. So sometimes what happens is, if I'm a better person, will they come back to me? And I have a lot of people, husbands and wives who have lost their partners, say that. Yeah. They're trying to figure out a way to control the energy or something. It's really hard. Another one, James, that people go through hugely is depression.
Very common. Very
sense of sadness and hopelessness is a big one.
Kelly, part of that hopelessness and sadness is because, again, I could have done something. Like many times parents I shouldn't have given the keys. If I didn't let her out of the house, she wouldn't have died. Right. No, that's not true. That soul has, everybody should understand there's an expiration date. There's a date to be born and a day to pass over. And I've seen, Kelly, maybe you know more about this in astrologically wise, but during a Saturn return between 28.
Saturn return, everybody, is 28, 29, 30, and then the other one is 58, 59, 60.
And people leave. People come in and leave.
They do. A lot of those famous musicians, what was it, Jim Morrison, and they all passed at 27, missing their Saturn return. But there's depression, and then there's, again, with depression could come grief, or could come guilt. Guilt is what we're, guilt for sure. And then there's acceptance. There's an acceptance. You eventually get to that place of acceptance. You're okay. You're understanding of what happened. You're accepting of it. But then there's another piece that I think is the most important and the biggest spiritual lesson of all, James, and that is making meaning. Making meaning of
MEANING.
MEANING, making meaning.
And it means
to make meaning of the grief, to understand what happened to the grief, to make meaning of your life now, to gain wisdom from it. What do you want to do with the information?
What have I learned from this? What have
I learned from this?
Yeah. It's one of the deepest emotional experiences, human experience that a soul will go through, is that separation, is that loss. And it's interesting because I remember many times I work with parents, people say to them, "Oh, come on, they've been gone for 10 years. Get over it. Over it."
I get so mad when somebody says that.
It's one of the worst things.
It's the worst thing you can ever say to anybody is get over it.
No, you learn to live with it. You gently go through it. You gently will smooth your way through it. It doesn't mean forgetting. It's learning to carry it with a new sense. It can build you up. You can always hold that love in your heart, or realize that that life experience you went through with that person, or it's very, very interesting, and it never goes away. I mean, it's just
and I'll tell you what hits me often in surprising ways is my loss of my dog.
Yeah,
the loss of my dog. Now I've had several dogs since, but I had one dog. She passed away in my arms at 2008. I don't know if I ever recovered from it. Do you know what I mean? Like I moved forward, but it's there's something about the loss of pets too that just really.
I thought yesterday, believe it or not, I played with Pearl in the garden. I thought, wow, when she goes, I don't know if I want to go on living. It's just the way it is. It's that unconditional love. It's like, wow, when that pets go. Yeah, that's one of the hardest griefs there. I think. And Kelly, being a therapist and for the work you do, why don't you talk to people also about that they really should feel through everything. They need to really go through.
Definitely do the feels. You cannot push this grief
and suppress it.
No, you don't suppress it. And be around people that will support you with this too. That understand. Maybe other people who have had loss that understand. I think that would be really important. But really feel it. Feel it in your soul. And I promise you do. And cry. Oh, please. I remember thinking I would just cry for the rest of my life. And it didn't happen that way. It didn't, I cried a lot. Have self-compassion.
I cry every day, but for different things.
Right. But when you have self-compassion, you really learn self-compassion for this. It is everything. And just feel the feelings. And you ultimately, you move out of it. Ultimately can move out of it. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to hit you 5 years from then or 10 years from then. I mean, you might have that moment where it just hits you,
I think it's a part of your life.
It's a part of life. It's exactly, you've learned a lot from grief. You'll learn a lot. You'll help another person through grief.
I just got a memory as I'm sitting here with you. I get these weird things come in my head. And I'm writing my book right now, my autobiography, and it's putting me in these time and spaces, which are just way back when I was 10 years old and 7 and 8. And I just got the image of when I used to come home. And I would, there was a little hallway in my mother's house there, and I had to be 7. And I remember there was a drawer with crayons and paper, and I used to crayon on the table. And I just remember this is so weird. I just got this image of something I crayoned when I was 7 or 8. And I remember it was a heart. It was a red heart. And I remember I put all little colored specks all around the heart. And it was all different colored crayons, right? So just da 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 da. And I said, my mom came and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, she goes, "What are those?" I said, "Oh, those are the dots. Those are, everyone's going to, what was the words? It's going to help the heart grow. Those are things that in life. Those are things in life that make the heart grow." And as those little specks of colors, it's like all the lessons, all the experiences we go through life opens us up. experiences, learn things from someone else's point of view, understand things at a global level, a bigger level than yourself. So it's all of that. We're always growing and learning, and you want to grow and learn. Even the most painful things, the way we grow a lot from that. But sitting quietly with it, with the grief and going through it, understanding the fullness of it, you got to get it out. Don't hold it back. Let it flow out and understand. You don't have to hold on to an experience. Like, wow, that's interesting, and that's it. Learn from that, and let yourself be open then to the healing energies.
Absolutely. It's interesting. There's a method that some therapists use is what they do is they oscillate between understanding and coping with the loss and the grief, and understanding that and focusing on that and focusing on the pain. And at the same time, they're kind of helping with the restoring and learning new coping skills. And they're one of the coping skills, James, that I'll never forget. My mom taught me this years ago. She said to her patients who had this kind of loss, she would say, all right, every day at 2:00, you cry for a half hour. You cry for an hour. You give yourself that permission, because sometimes people have to have permission, to feel. This is such a funny world about we don't feel, but we need to feel that.
I've met so many people that hold suppressed feelings, emotions down, and it ends up coming out physically in the body later, disease or imbalance.
And it really will with grief. It really will. If you don't, and that's why maybe finding meaning in the loss and creating a new narrative for yourself. You don't have to be the one that just that just only has loss. It's creating it can be a new life even.
And Kelly, sometimes I've found in the past when people go through major grief, major trauma, or pain, they tend to leave the body. So I don't want to deal with the body, and they tend to numb themselves with alcohol, drugs, and whatever it might be to get out of that body, that pain body. They don't want to deal with it. It's really important you go through the fullness of that grieving experience again.
I see a lot of that with the grief of a marriage or the grief of a relationship. That's a big one. And the other big one that I'm watching hugely now, James, maybe it's because of our age, are people that are thinking about retiring. It's a huge grief.
Big one.
Oh my gosh. Just watching people just going through the fear of what's going to happen. Who am I without that, career? Or who am I?
I have friends right now that are going through it. Some of them, and they're going through it. It's like they have all the money they'll ever need, but they're still that identifies them in some strange way. That's our identity, which again, we got to go within ourselves and find ourselves be true. I think good breathing exercises every day and realizing that you're really part of life. You're still part of life. And have that discovery, that respect for life, just connect again to life in maybe different ways. Try a different type of job. Try, something doesn't work out. I'm going to try something else. There's always possibilities. There's always a way. When something starts, and this probably happened at age 60, I think, that when something, what we call negative, when a judge was, something happens, like, okay, I used to be angry and all that. Now I say, okay, what's another way around this? What's another way of going through this? What's another way of looking? And let's say the positive. I say, and this is what I've said, everything in life is an opportunity. Everything.
Everything.
It's an opportunity. So what can I learn? How can I grow? How can I be different? How can I help others understand? Whatever it might be, there are opportunities through everything.
And, grief requires energy. It takes a lot of energy when you're just grieving. It takes a lot of energy.
You got to take care of your physical self.
So you have to take care of yourself, even if it's just sitting down and having a cup of tea with yourself. Enjoying your own company can be an important thing too. But a lot of people are losing their animals, James. That's a big one. The animals are a big one right now.
I think it's funny because I always say, talk to your loved one in spirit. I always speak to them. They can always hear us. So the animals can hear us. Again, very, very, no matter what kind of animal it is, it's life. Life doesn't die. There is no death. So, I know we just talked about your doggie, my doggie, Maisie, and it's a tough
Maisie. Yeah.
That was a tough one. When I left her, I had to bring her to the vet, and they had to put her down. And I said to her a week before, "Is it time, Mama?" It was a tough one. She had adult diabetes, and they had to give her injections. She didn't want the injections. So
we helped but Maisie helped a lot of people. You were talking about it a lot when it happened. For about 6 months, even a year, even a couple of years, you were talking a lot about it.
Changed my life.
It changed your life. You helped a lot of people. And then I remember all of these dogs were suddenly named Maisie. You remember that?
Yes.
That was Maisie May. It was unbelievable.
That's right. And people had visions of her everywhere too, all over the world. It was funny.
Right.
Yeah. I think the depth of an animal's love, unconditional love, the depth that she taught me, that Pearl teach me, the animals teach me, the dog, it's so interesting. I go to the dog park and all the dogs come up to me.
Well, I bet. Yeah, I bet they do.
Something like that.
But somebody here is bringing up Alzheimer's and dementia, and we're going to see that on the rise with the baby
100%.
boomers. It's coming up, and I think there's a lot of grief around that, because I have a lot of clients that will come to me and they'll say, my mother had this or my father had this, and I'm worried about that. So there's a lot of pre-worry, even pre-grieving a situation, if you will.
It's true. It's true. And there are a lot. We're at that age, Kellee, that friends of ours are just taking on these different types of diseases or different ways.
Well, what you just said is important. They're taking on this. So their souls are here to learn something.
Right. So this physical time, this spiritual time, if we call it time, but it's experiences, it's going through it. And a soul, I always think nothing happens by accident. I don't think we just take on these things just to hell. But right. No. I think we just agree to it before we come back in the incarnation to go through various types of diseases, imbalance, illness, whatever you want to call these things. But I also think it's important to remember that it's not just about the person who's in that state, but those around that are taking care of them, the caregivers. It's a big lesson for maybe the caregivers to go through something, to about giving love and compassion. And also, it's an important soul connection with the person maybe who ill, the person that they're teaching their loved ones love. How they have to learn how to receive love from their loved ones. Maybe in their life they never learned to receive love. They always want to be in control, and finally they can't be in control anymore. They have to learn to receive love from loved ones. That happens a lot, and older age, for sure.
Let's talk about for a moment. There's a gal here whose husband took his own life. And she feels a lot of guilt about it, even though she didn't provoke it and didn't even know anything about it.
Yeah. So I think, again, another great lesson for the soul is suicide. So there are different types of suicide. And I learned a lot of this from Brian Weiss when I worked with Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters at Past Life Regression, because it would come up a lot in his regressions that, I left early in that lifetime. I didn't know how to handle it, so I left the body. So the soul can never die, right? The body just goes away. It does. But the soul can never die. That soul is always safe. Soul it's always there. The soul is within us right now. There's no end to the soul. So, but the suicide sometimes it isn't a lesson, not only for that have passed over, but those left behind, right? And there are different types of suicide. So if someone comes back on this earth and they have to learn various lessons, and I believe this happens a lot, Kellee, that when a soul has a life review when they go to the other side, and they're like, I should have done that better. I could have done that. Why did I do that? And I think sometimes they push to come back before their time.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't feel they're in sync and they don't feel like themselves in this physical body. Like, I don't feel like I fit in. I feel I'm at the wrong time. I've seen suicides that way. My cousin was like that, Patricia. She left. She felt she never fit in and when she passed over to the spirit world, she came back and said, I came back before my time, but because we have free will and free choice.
Right.
And I also think it's some weird thing with suicide. What do you think about this? That sometimes when someone suicides, and that's just letting go of the body, right? That maybe there's a past life where they left at that same age, and that there's a soul memory of.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. That energy, we're feeling that energy.
That's come into my mind a lot. Like, for instance, when they say that all of a sudden they're 36 and they feel like, I want to my throat hurts me, my neck. Maybe in a past life they hung at 36.
Right.
I don't know. That was an insight I had. Also, the suicides, there's free will. Sometimes it's not, I think, one way with suicides. I think there can be many mental causes. Maybe someone is mentally not aware of certain things emotionally that they think I'll be better. I think we all go through that we talked about last week.
Dark night of the soul.
I went through it. Through emotional upheaval in a relationship. I thought, what am I living for? I can't, this person. Well, what's there to live for? And you get to that very dark place. But then you got to realize there's much, much more to it than that. And it's really, how can I handle this situation?
Well, it's interesting because when you sign up for it to come to Earth, boy, they are some big roller coasters, right? You can have that depth of emotion. You can come up and feel whole and wonderful, and you can go down again. It's a real, real roller coaster.
Yeah, when people, I talk to people every day, they go, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, good. I'm." What's it called when you're staying on the water? You're just floating on the water. You're just staying on.
Like paddling or just
paddling. Just floating. I say, I'm just on the water still, just on the water, just taking it all in, and I'm just taking it all in. It's almost like my favorite things to do in my life. I used to, when I could, lie on my back on a pool and float and look up at the stars. And I think that our lives are like that, like all that bunch of those stars, or that experience and that experience, and that experience and that experience. It's like, what are they teaching me? I think there's just so much out there, so many miracles, and life is so beyond our comprehension that to me is the curious part. Wow, there's so much more going on, that this great force or forces can move planets, can change seasons, can, bring night, day, this bring life. It's just so amazing to me.
It is so amazing. Yeah. You have such good energy with that, James. You do, because even if you were to go down, you pull yourself up again. And that's what
I have you.
I always pull you up, and you pull me up, and we pull each other up, and we just keep going, because I think it's really important.
We just shake our heads and go, huh?
Well, actually, we're always in shock over so many things, right? So many things. This is an interesting question. A gal says, where do souls work at once when they pass away? Do they have jobs on the other side? Do they hang out with each other the other day? I'm so glad you asked that question. I think about this all the time, and everybody does what they want if they want to have a job over there. But James, I had an interesting experience today that I didn't get a chance to tell you about. One of my friends who passed away a year ago came to me while I was driving today. I was taking the dogs to the park, and she came to me and she said, I want you to know, Kellee, we're all working. We can go wherever we want. We put ourselves in a place where we can help Earth right now. I have a lot of souls helping Earth right now. But she said, we can put our energies, is how she phrased it to me. We can put our energies in a place that we want to put our energies. So if we want to help this group, or we want to help this group. And she was showing me the different groups that she and her husband actually were helping. It was a really good, it was such a good experience to hear from her. And I wasn't expecting, I wasn't thinking about her. It was all about
that's why you received it, because you weren't in your head. You were just open.
I was just driving. Yeah.
When something happens to read a book, when you take a shower, in a bath, you're open. You get these messages. It's so interesting because again, I end up being the Virgo that I am. I always say, well, it's a human experience. So remember, we're limited in this 3-dimensional world to really understand those levels of consciousness or levels of spirit. And the best way I can say it is, from my understanding, there are many, many levels, right? There are many, many, in my Bible, my father has a house with many mansions, which means all these spectrums, places we can go to, all these different levels, if you will. And we can do many service work, help others. We can go back to school. We can study science. We can study. A friend of mine who passed over said, I'm studying military Air Force. I said, interesting. And he was an Air Force person when he was much younger.
Wow.
And all these different things. One person is learning something to do with engineering, but they're trying to explain it to me, and I couldn't relate to that type of engineering. And there's so many things we don't understand. My brother who passed over tells me, he's trying to show me where he's at and talk about gardens. He said, yeah, you wouldn't understand the type of gardens there are here, because there's no words in the human language.
Right.
So we have to remember also, everybody, that we're living as souls having this human experience. This 30%, 70% of the souls outside, 30% is here. So that 70% can be living without time. So you can be in different places and spaces, universes, galaxies, different forms of life, all the same time, past lives, future lives, all the same time while your lower self is experiencing the human world.
Exactly.
So there's always movement. There's always connection. And again, those spaces and places, it's hard for us humans to understand. The only energy which is that transformed, that is within everything, is love. Love is that force that is at all those levels, all those spectrums that exist. And it's a degree of love, I think we should talk about. You go to that level which you've created based on the amount of love you've given out, that you've created, that you help to acknowledge and bring forth. You will get that back when you go. That's who you are. That's who you become. So we ask about going through grief and going through it. It helps us to expand our horizon
and expand our heart. And which reminds me of what you said when you were little and you had the crayons and you were making a heart.
And now that
you had the dots in it.
All those specks, I think, were stars. I think they were stars. They were lighting up the heart.
And you were always connecting. You were always connecting.
Always.
In
I
that
think I
way.
came down like Star Trek coming, beam me up. I was always like, beam me down, and here I am.
Right.
I was always wear a beam of light around me. Always. I was always aware there was a higher sense, a sense of who I am. Always. I never fit into this is all there is. This to me is like nothing.
Right.
And I think that's why I'm a writer.
So you didn't buy into the limited, that you were just limited.
No, I was raised Catholic and very Catholic. I never related to it. I related to the ceremonial, the ritual, the costumes I loved, the incense I loved. But looking up at someone on a cross, it's like, yeah, it doesn't work. That doesn't feel right to me. I've always been curious, and I think one of the things which I think comes close to those levels, those place of spirit, musical notes. Music.
Oh, yes.
Notes of music, the vibration, the frequency of those notes. I think that works in alignment and harmony with those various levels there are many different notes, if you will, in the systems, in the star systems and spaces and places. It's so beyond us. But again,
and different colors too, because you and I were talking about primary colors versus all the colors that come out.
And we didn't get into form yet.
Exactly.
So we should do a whole podcast on color and form and frequency with colors, and healing with that, because it's all about that. It's all about light. It's all about the value of light, the degree of light, the frequency of the light waves. We're light. We're energy. That's what we are. And we take on these costumes, this meat suit, the human body.
Oh, it's so true.
We work out here. This is where we work out all of our stuff in the human world. And once we've learned and we graduate, we go back home. And I've never had one soul come back and say, "Oh, I miss that physical body. Oh, I miss that world."
I've never had that either.
I mean, our friend Carolyn Mumolo, who passed over, and she was a great reader. She was a great person.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Passed right over, and she came back, I think, once. And then secondly, I went got her and said, "Why don't you see me?" She goes, "Oh, I don't want to be around the numbskulls." I don't want to be around.
I hear her say that.
She goes, "Jane, they're all dopey. They're all dopey."
That was so Carolyn.
It's so Carolyn.
This is a good question. Can you grieve and will yourself to leave this earth from all the grief that you're suffering from? You can. It's called a broken
heart. Your soul
heart.
will want to go through it. You're doing the wrong thing. The soul, it needs to go through it. It's that human. It's your reaction as the human. But remember, you're a soul having a human experience. Don't be so put into the human, because you'll have to go through it one way or another, whether you come back or it's I know it sounds really hard, but it's valuable. It's so valuable.
It is valuable. It's a huge spiritual lesson.
Like I said last week, 1 in 11 souls get chosen to come back on this earth. That's a big. This is reserved for the highly advanced souls who want to go through this and learn and grow and expand. It's an opportunity here. It's an opportunity for growth and for life and for learning and living. And don't ever take it for granted, anybody.
Oh my God, don't ever. And Marjorie Clark says, why do some experience such tragedy, losing 2 sons and a husband? Again, Marjorie, that means you're getting your PhD on Earth.
You're advanced souls. You're an advanced
soul
going to get advanced lessons. Advanced souls get advanced lessons. It's not a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's not the universe saying bad you. No, it's quite the opposite. It's a hard lesson, but it's one you'll grow the most from, and it'll affect you spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. And that's something we have to talk about too. So, remember, everybody, you got to take care of yourself in those bodies, the mental body, the physical body, the emotional body, the spiritual body. They all interconnect. And we have to integrate them perfectly, because if one body is off, it'll throw off the rest of them.
Oh, for sure.
It'll take you over. It'll throw you off physically. You'll feel terrible physically, mentally, negative thoughts, whatever. So you got to be, integrate and slowly. It's a process. It's not a magical pill you can take. Yeah. Those things don't happen.
Laura says, how is a soul chosen to come back to Earth?
How does I think what the soul chooses with their guides and teachers. Yeah. I think this is really interesting, but I think we talked about this on phone call, that when we get to the other side of life and we leave this physical body, this temporary meat suit, we go to expand, learn, grow. We also get, number one, everyone to enjoy. We really have to enjoy things. The physical world, it's a hard place here. Yeah. So let's say you've had a desire that you always wanted to play the piano, but you were never given the chance, or perhaps you wanted to paint, but never given the opportunity. When you pass the spirit world, you'll get to do those things your soul desires. Learn the piano, learn orchestration, learn colors and painting, learn whatever you want to learn. And they have acting over there, there's shows, they have all different types of ways. You can do everything you've always wanted to do here and then some. And so you take time to rest and to regain your energy. And really, then you go to in a specialized field. I think you go to a certain space that you want to rediscover and proficient. Thank you. They just said you become proficient in a certain thing. And you get all that proficiency, and you choose to come back to help others with what you've learned. So I talked to Kellee about this last week. I said, I think that in between lives, I went to a spectrum, a space where I developed my mediumship, and I worked at awareness and mindfulness. I've worked at all these different types of things, I think, in lifetimes, in between lives, over and over again. So that in this particular life, I can come back at this level and change the mass consciousness. And I think that's a specialty in that field. And for eons.
No doubt that's what you came to do.
I think that whether it's a musician, a singer, an artist, an author, I just think someone's really an expert at what they do, or good at what they do. They learn that. That becomes part of their soul fabric, if you will. And I love that word, soul fabric.
That's a great one.
And Joseph, the coat of many colors, Joseph. It's very true. We're part of amazing, amazing colors. And we have a coat of many colors. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. So there we have got so many questions here but everybody's talking that this subject was really needed tonight.
Good for all of us. We're all grieving, like we talked in the beginning of the podcast. We're going through a grieving period of the old ways of doing things, old patterns, old behaviors, old interactions. Things are changing. And so how can we go through it? Ground yourself, breathe, quality time, speak. I have Kellee's my listening post.
Active listening, everybody. Active listening. Have compassion for what everybody is going through.
Bring someone else joy. I mean, I laugh a lot. I have a guy at the gym I'm training with. He's funny. I just say these weird things and he thinks you're crazy. I say, yeah. And we both laugh. Laughter into it. Smile at people. Say good things. Play with your animals. Do hobbies. Plant some flowers. Sing. Take hobbies. Sing. Sing. Do hobbies. Clean. I love cleaning the house. Clean.
Right. Exactly. Organized. I don't know. There are a lot of things to get out and read.
Do things active. You don't want to waste these opportunities. Although it seems hard and difficult, you still have life. Never forget that.
Right. Exactly. And we wanted to be here at this time.
We chose it.
Because we're going to learn so much. By the time we get to the other side, we're going to know so much. We're going to have expanded so much.
And Kellee, they should also, people I think should talk to others, because you're going to learn a lot from others, and others want to help you too. It gives them the opportunity to help you.
Absolutely. So, James, talk about what you have coming up. Tell me about mediumship too.
Yeah, mediumship too. I just did a Facebook Live with Liz, who helps with my school, and we had mediumship too for a while, but we redid it, if you want to say, adding a bunch of new types of aspects to the course, including development circles, sitting in development circles.
Great.
And I'll be visiting development circles. I'll be working live one-on-one with people, and it's really for those who want to expand their mediumship, even if you've been a medium for a while. Learning about how to get into the space easier and more concise, and just become more the person.
Well, it's what you said. I was looking at your social media about the having the new generation of mediums.
The new generation.
I thought that was a good way to say it, because there will be a time when, I guess we won't be here, James. But
we'll be home. Yeah.
We'll be home.
But you got to do it. You got to do the right way. I always think in leadership, people's lives are in your hands, and you got to do it in such a sensitive. It's such a responsibility. And totally. I've talked about this before. I talk about it a lot. I see a lot of young kids in social media and so forth, and doing readings on Instagram. No! Don't do that. Don't do that.
Please. Right. Put the energy into it.
No, you got to develop yourself properly. So this is a good way, this course. And so that's what's going on. And then you have something coming. I have two things.
Do. On November 15th, I have the Roots of Healing with me, with Dr. Shirley Pellizzeri, and with Carrie Gonia. And we're going to be talking about chaos in families. So please join us on November 15th. And Carrie's going to do a family constellation. I'm going to be talking about karmic contracts. And Shirley will be talking about psychology from a somatic standpoint. So you'll learn so much from this. Our Roots of Healing, everybody, it's a 4-hour class. It's deep. Right. We go into a deep dive there. And talk about healing. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. So before that workshop, they should put themselves in a lovely space of wanting to receive healing the day of the workshop. The night before, maybe put your mindset in that I'm going to receive healing in the way that's my highest good. And then you go to bed and wake up and take the course. And that's the best way to enter that type of course.
Absolutely. It sure is. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
doing some readings in November. I have a lot of slots left open for readings for people. I do.
Oh, good.
Well,
Like a group of 10, or what do you have?
10, and it's phenomenal. We do it for like 2 or 3 hours, and everyone gets a reading. And so I have 2 more dates in November. They're very popular now, and I love it. I love doing it. And my hat's off to John Edward, my fellow medium there, because he's out on the road doing a lot of stuff. And I'm like, God, John, bless your heart to go out there and do that. But maybe I'm a little older, so it's harder. But it's a good way to connect with people.
But it is.
It's hard to travel, but it's a good way to connect with people from all over the world as well. So so that's good. I'm also going to be doing this Thursday is really important. This Thursday at 4:00 Pacific, I'm doing a free seminar on mediumship. So that's this.
Wow. What's at 4:00 Pacific time?
Pacific time, and it's on my Facebook page. You can find the link there. But it's a free seminar on mediumship. I'll do some readings. I'll help you understand your mediumship. I'll do exercises about your own mediumship, help me to guide you through different exercises and processes I do in mediumship, and what part of the course also. But it's free, so it's Thursday. If you're interested at all, come by this Thursday at 4:00. It'll be a good time, and I'll stay on for as long as I can. No place to go but hang out with y'all.
Well, that sounds wonderful, wonderful, James. Wow, well, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Yes,
our Halloween show is next Tuesday.
Our Halloween show. Boy, time's so fast. So it's Halloween, everybody. So I expect everybody to be in costumes.
We'll be in costumes.
Yes. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks, you, everybody.
James. Thanks, everybody.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.